नाम क्यों नहीं आ रहे किसी के? किसने रिमूव किए नाम?
Welcome to Grey Beyond Narratives YouTube channel. Today we will talk about the Jeffrey Epstein case and its implication for society. Jeffrey Epstein, a financier, was arrested in July 2019 on charges of sex trafficking and conspiracy to commit sex trafficking. He was denied bail prior to his trial and died in jail, his death being officially ruled a suicide by the New York City Medical Examiner. According to accusers, Epstein's private island, Little St. James, served as a center of an international sex trafficking ring. The island was sold to a wealthy investor in May 2023 for less than half of its original asking price, with the hope of turning it into a luxury resort. In this session, we will cover Jeffrey Epstein's main crimes, the cases that have been brought against him over the year, the main people who have visited the island and being accused alongside him, and a list of famous people associated with him. We'll also talk about Epstein's private island, Little St. James, and how the cases against Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell played out. Finally, we'll look at how the cases affect the justice system and society as a whole. We hope that this discussion will provide a better understanding of the case and its implication for society. Now we'll go to Furkan. Furkan, please take over.
Yes, thank you, Medusa. I think it's an interesting topic, and it was brought back in limelight because certain documents from the case revealed certain more names who were, in a way, associated or knew Jeffrey during when he was uh, having certain events at the island, or when he was out of jail. So, although he has always been a controversial person, even before the recent case when he was accused of doing sex trafficking and other crimes or conspiracy to do sex trafficking, he was like before even that he was controversial, and there were certain allegations made by certain group of individuals, females mostly, who accused him of exploiting them. So a lot of rich and famous knew what sort of person he was, and yet they decided to engage with him and engage in certain activities on the infamous island. So the main crimes that were basically on which Epstein was accused of was of sex trafficking and conspiracy to basically engage in sex trafficking. And but interestingly, like I guess it was 10 years back or 8 years back, before this case, the attorney general, I can't remember the name, I will come up with the name, and he was also named in the people who visited the infamous island, basically made a deal with uh, Jeffrey. He went to jail for a year, I guess, and it was a very lenient sentence. And next, like prosecution can't bring in any case on Jeffrey for some reason. So these were some of the
Alexander,
things
his name
which,
was Alexander Acosta, I think. You know?
yeah,
Alexander
yeah,
Acosta.
yeah. And I guess he went on to become the Secretary of State, uh, probably during Trump time, I guess. Uh, but yeah,
Yes. Yes, yes.
as the title indicates, dark side of power and privilege. I think how the case was handled uh, before, not this time, like the when he went to jail and he died or was murdered, whatever. But that case depicts what power and privilege can do in a country uh, like America, even if you are being accused of such heinous crimes. Yeah. So back to you,
Can I
Medusa.
ask a question, please? So,
Yeah.
so how can you say power was exhilarated in this entire situation when the guy is dead? How can a dead guy exhilarate power? I don't understand. So that
Uh,
notion, I understand that powerful people, they might have certain autonomy in regards to what they conduct and what they do. But at the end of the day, you cannot say that about this case. I do not believe so, because the guy is dead. A lot of other people are involved. I think even people mentioned in the list, majority of them happen to be very famous. Famous people meet famous people. Tomorrow, if there was a case of another celebrity of a similar background with high profile, who might be involved in other kinds of criminal activities, um, you will see ample amount of names visiting that person. For example, let's look at South Asia. Shah Rukh Khan, a lot of people go and meet Shah Rukh Khan. For example, Ronaldo met Shah Rukh Khan. Various other people met Shah Rukh Khan. Shah Rukh Khan's had parties. Shah Rukh Khan's met with kings and queens around the world. Shah Rukh Khan has met politicians. But at the end of the day, if tomorrow he's found out, I'm not saying he has, that he was involved in something or the other, um, and the guy is dead, I don't think you can prove much, can you? How is that power exhilaration? I want to know. Please go ahead.
okay, Shaji, there were two cases. One was probably in 2009,
Shaji,
10. Yeah. Yeah, Madisa, go ahead.
अब नहीं आप
Madisa.
बात करें फिर मैं आपके बाद ये करती हूँ.
Okay, so there were two cases. One
अच्छा,
was the
I
recent
just
one. Yes,
seriously,
Madisa.
you guys. Anyway, I was just saying that Shaji, he did get away with a certain part of it. This was not the first, like Furkan Bhai said, this was not the first time there was a case on him regarding this. There was one case on him on Palm Beach Island where he did the same things. Uh, Initially, there were these two sisters, the farmer sisters. Um, when they made a complaint to FBI about the guy, they never got any answer, and this happened to many of them. It was later on that they started taking. It was after the Me Too, the whole Me Too hashtag thing when it started. After that, Jeffrey Epstein, actually, people started taking him seriously.
Not
That's all I
even
have to
like
say.
the Palm Beach case, if you look at it, it never went into courts. It was a complaint, and later on, the women took that away. They did not file it. They did not pursue it. They did not seek it. It's very similar to what happened with Michael Jackson. A bunch of allegations are made, and at the end, out of court settlements or out of before court settlements are made. So that's on the behest of the victim. So
No.
those women, if they did not exhilarate or pursue it to that extent, and they did not see a case which they did not file to the same extent, they did not follow it through, then I'm really sorry. You can't basically come out and say that this is something which is exhilarating power. This is not power. The guy's dead. And anyone who, my point over here is anyone who visited the man, anyone who visited the guy, like, for example, people talking about Stephen Hawkins. For example, Stephen Hawkins visiting him proves nothing. Did he get involved in any of those sex rackets? Was he involved in any sexual intercourse? We'll never know. That's the point over here.
Shaji, basically in 2008, he made a deal with the Attorney General of the U.S. in Florida, the Palm Beach Island case, which Medusa was saying, and the victims were never heard. They were never heard in court. They were never called. The case was there, and then he made a plea bargain, and which was like even with the prosecution, he couldn't be prosecuted on these charges. So the victims were never heard by the court of law,
What
and that
exactly is plea bargain, sir?
so he made a deal with the Secretary General. Sorry, not the Secretary General, the Attorney General in Florida, and basically he couldn't be
That's an
prosecuted
allegation.
on
That's
these.
not a factual thing. That's an
Ye- Yeah,
allegation.
yeah,
That
I
is
agree.
allegation. You can make allegations like that left, right, and center. That doesn't prove anything. I think that's a conspiracy theory, because at the end of the day, if that is a thing, then I can assure you, the Florida and United States courts justice and whatnot is like under a huge question mark over here. If you're going to suggest that, that's an allegation.
But he ended up with
It
a
actually is.
non-prosecution
No,
agreement.
Shaji, it actually is.
No,
No,
it's
the
it's
thing is,
not.
Shaji, when the whole li- can. So the thing is that when initially these allegations were made and the case was taken to the FBI, and then the state attorney took over, which was Alexander Costa, the guy I mentioned. He made this hush hush deal with him in hotel rooms, and eventually the plea bargain and everything, it happened behind closed doors. None of the complainants were heard, and it happened. All of those women, quite obviously, I mean, as far as I could see, they were really upset by what happened back then. They were really upset with the justice system.
So the question over here is what we're saying in regards to pre-bargaining. If that's what occurred, then that pre-bargaining was legal. Otherwise, that if the way people are saying like the law was twisted or something, that's completely incorrect. It's not something like that. If you read the case, I think I shared the documents. I can try and share them over here as well. If you look at the first glance of that case, it seems very legal. And the reason why it was thrown out is not is simply because those women did not pursue it. If somebody is not going to pursue a case and there's an out of court settlement in a certain way, you cannot basically go into the nitty gritty and say the law is at fault and the powerful did something. If there's a loophole there, and if the victims as well as evidence is not provided, the courts are going to throw it out 100 times, whether it's a poor man or a rich man.
Shaji, but in 2019, a federal judge basically ruled that the deal basically violated the criminal crime Victims' Rights Act because the victims were not informed or consulted during the process of this deal that happened between the uh, Attorney General and the legal team of Epstein. The victims were never involved in the process, never were heard or anything. So this is also a ruling by a court of law in the US that it violated the Crime Victims' Rights Act.
That's a claim.
No, no, that's a judgment by the court.
No, that's a claim.
No, Shaji, it's a judgment by the court.
I think you don't understand the legal system in United States. That's a claim.
It's referred to as a judgment.
It's a claim.
You can
Well,
call
I
it a
guess we'll
claim.
have to.
You can basically share the document here on the screen.
Yeah, yeah. It's a ruling, Shaji.
And you can
It's a
go into
ruling.
the
In legal
nitty-gritties
terms,
of
it's a ruling, not a claim. It's a ruling in US legal term. It's a ruling.
it's a ruling.
Also, at
Yeah,
the end of the
it's a
day,
ruling in terms of
Hmm.
can you check in legal terms what does the word ruling mean under the court system in United States, please? Please?
Basically, it tells that what happened was
It
not.
instigates further investigation in higher courts. That's what it does. It's not a judgment as in Pakistan or in the United Kingdom. It's very different in the United States. The system is very different. The terms are similar, but the system is different. So if a lower court makes a ruling and it goes out, then it's basically to instigate further kind of rules and regulations in terms of questioning. That's what it is. It's something to
Yes.
ponder upon, basically.
So the
So
legal,
in
the,
our
the,
legal system, it would be known as a
the
claim.
yeah. So
What you
what essentially it tells is that the legal criterias were not fulfilled. That's what the ruling tells.
Of course, that's what the
During the
claim was.
process
But
of
what
the
what
initial
did the
case in
higher court
2008-9.
suggest in that? So then there was a case. Finally, there was a case. The guy was dead. What was the ruling in regards to that? The Me Too movements began. Everyone, there is no doubt that Epstein was a criminal. Now, if Epstein was a criminal, and there is no doubt he was a criminal, that means that they succeeded in prosecuting him, but unfortunately, the dude is dead. You can't prosecute someone who's dead. It's impossible. So where does power exhilarating basically comes into play is my question.
Shadi, how it does is because he was basically on out of 6 accounts, on 5 of those accounts, what he was accused of, he was found guilty in the 2019 case.
And Shadi, let me elaborate on the point of how was it exhilarating power. In a society such as America, where they uh, have this very strict taboo in regards to pedophilia, in regards to underage and minors being involved in sexual activities with people who are over 18, there was a man who held so much money, power due to their finances that he was able to make such conditions that other very rich and powerful people living in a society where having sex with minors under their legal frame system is one of the largest social taboos, and they are able to indulge in those activities just because they are rich and powerful. They make a whole island about it. There is no doubt that Jeffrey Epstein was involved in sex trafficking, especially for
When did I say he
minors.
wasn't involved?
No, no, you, of course, you did not deny it. I'm talking about how is this whole scenario in regards to the dark side of power and privileges for the people who, uh, living in America, hold financial powers. They are able to break the one of the largest taboos of that
Obviously,
society.
if Epstein would have been alive, he would have been tried. He's
Yes,
dead.
uh,
So how
there
can
are
you
other
use
people
that
who are
argument
involved.
about
Are they
rich
not?
and powerful with a dead person? You can't. A
Yes,
lot
there
of
are other people involved.
a lot of famous people, a lot of rich people have been prosecuted in the past.
Hmm.
I can name a few if you want.
Actually, I would like, are any of them involved with Jeffrey Epstein? I mean, Prince
What do you mean
Andrew, of
involved
all
with Jeffrey
people.
Hello,
Epstein?
everyone.
Hello, husband.
I just wanted to actually point out that it's not just isolated to one person. See, at the end of the day, this is something that's more of a movement. This has been there for years. I mean, just because Jeffrey Epstein was exposed doesn't mean that this is something brand new to the mix. I mean, come on, this is something that's been going on since the 30s, 40s. It's been going on. It's just that we weren't informed enough to actually be in that state where we could actually bring it up. This is this is old news. This has been going on for ages. It's just Jeffrey Epstein was the scapegoat that they needed for this specific event to go south, for this to come out, for this to be exposed, because somebody from the internals, like obviously from the internal circle, let go of it. I mean, factually speaking, at the end of the day, that's exactly what it is, right?
So what do you exactly mean by that? Hasib, first of all, welcome to our channel. Would you like to introduce
Thank you.
yourself so we know who we're actually
Oh,
speaking
well,
to?
my name's Hasib. I am currently working for an organization here that handles social media, and well, let's just leave it at that. And as far as well, my understanding of this goes, as any layman, I'm here. I'm seeing all of this because this is not something that's new. At the end of the day, I mean, what you're looking at here is something that's been going on for ages. And I mean, I'm sorry, I'm completely going into the topic again. So please
No,
go
no,
on.
you're not. You're making a lot of sense, actually, and I would like you to elaborate a bit further on that.
Sure. I mean, this is something that they have been sneaking into the media for a very long time. We all know that there is an elite class that actually dictates this kind of behavior. And this has been going on for the past God knows how long. At the end of the day, this is something that can be traced to taboo rituals that have been, well, indoctrinated. I mean, they've been grandfathered into modern religion to such a degree that, as a matter of fact, we would rather uh, have a clear cut picture of what Santa looks like, but nobody has any clue what freaking Jesus looks like. So, I mean, come on, think about it. This is all a part of how things are going to be designed to control mass media. I mean, mass population. At the end of the day, media is the most reliable tool for the layman, and it is the most powerful tool for any government authority that actually controls it. Information
But
itself.
how is media control and mass population related to a sexual racket?
Because that is exactly where it gets out, right? Because that sexual racket has been going on for ages. And the reason it had to come out right now was because it was a distraction from something else that was happening at the same time. There were multiple movements that were going on during that time. There was a lot of media chaos, and that was all designed to basically cover this up. And when this was used as a footing, like for example, let me just put it this way: there was a decoy, and then there was a decoy for the decoy. We fell for the decoy for the decoy. So by the time we actually
So,
figured out what
so,
was going on,
so like you said, you're in mass media, correct? Is
I'm
that what
actually
you do for
work.
a career?
No, I work towards social media, information,
Social media and
censorship.
information.
Yeah,
So mass communication is basically
pretty
correct.
much. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you look at the corporate culture and you look at how things are, whether it's Europe, United States, or even countries like India or Pakistan, or
Hmm.
the Arab world for that matter, don't you see what that in regards to that, this harassment and things are pretty much part and parcel of the game. It happens. Sometimes it's real and it's all around us within the
Hmm.
corporate culture. And
Right.
sometimes it's exaggerated. Just like the Me Too movement
Okay.
as well. There were,
Hmm.
I'm not talking about Epstein, a lot
Hmm.
of people
Hmm.
basically stated what they did, and it was correctly showed out. But then there were a lot of cases which were ill-found and unfound, and a lot of people have been accused in the name of Me Too movement. I can refer to a Pakistani celebrity, Ali Zafar, for example, a very
Hmm.
famous singer by the name of Misha Shafi,
Hmm.
carried out a case against her, against him, and
Hmm.
that was actually completely unfound in terms of legality and everything else. So
Hmm.
again, there were cases in the UK at that time, as well as in the United States, which kind of uh, uh, people were just accused for no reason. Like a person might be in a prominent position, and people would come, they would use the Me Too slogan, and they would like basically just brand those things. So going by that, and whatever we've seen in the entire Me Too movement, what was kickstarted by Epstein, and now all these names like Stephen Hawkins and whatnot coming out, Prince Andrew and whatnot, we will never know the reality is to what extent some of those people were involved. Now, if you look at Stephen Hawkins, Stephen Hawkins, for example, this guy was completely disabled. I mean, what kind of sexual activity could that person indulge in?
That actually depends because,
That is crazy.
man, there, like, let's just be as frank as possible. I mean,
Can I
am currently yeah,
can I
please.
come in here a second? Give me a second. Hasib, give me a second.
Sure.
Stephen Hawking cheated on his wife with his nurse.
A lot.
Yeah,
That's
yes, he
not
did.
just
He
that's not
did
that's
cheat.
just not
So again, his wife started to ignore him. Actually, Stephen Hawkins used to be our visiting professor. Very, very, very. I feel very a huge pleasure in stating that back in 2006, 2007, he used to visit Imperial College London on a regular basis. So again, what people might refer to as cheating or whatnot, if you look at the sexual relationships Stephen Hawkins had both with his wife and the nurse which he married later on, um, were not much of a sexual nature.
see let me put it this
Very
way.
much
Let me put
more
it in the simplest
relationships.
way, okay? It's not necessary for it to have a sexual nature. Cheating does not require a sexual part of it to be played, first of all.
I'm
Secondly,
not denying he cheated or he did not cheat.
mhm,
But what I'm talking about is when we talk about a
what
sexual
kind of
magnet
sexual
like
what kind of
Epstein,
sexual
a
favors he
guy
took?
who's
That's what you're talking
physically
about?
incompetent is not going to achieve much. What is he going to
See,
do over there?
you need to understand that this dynamic with the elite class is not about the typical sexual nature of what we considered uh, depraved. Their nature is more towards bending somebody's will. So let's be real about a couple of things. It's like whenever you're in a position, like for example in the media, you hear this every single time.
So I
Whenever you
would
speak to
have
someone,
a further question. So basically, you're
mhm,
saying that anyone who was ever invited to Epstein's island or a
mhm.
party or something, they're all involved.
I didn't say that, but I can tell
No,
you this much
that's
for
a
sure.
question.
No,
It's a
I
question.
mean, frankly speaking, in my opinion, I am nobody to generalize, but I can tell you one thing for sure, that
Mm.
there is a class of people on this planet that currently commands that authority. That authority
What
being
authority?
the power to actually leave your country, take
Mm.
whatever you want, basically have a jurisdiction that is isolated enough. I mean, that it's basically outside of any jurisdiction at that stage. And it's isolated enough for you to actually pull off of whatever you want to pull off. So there are places like that. I mean, if you're looking at like places that are publicly known, hell no. But there are islands that people own. Simple as that. So if you want to pull something off and you want to make sure that you never get caught for this, you make sure that you land in a place where no law abides. Now, that would be my approach. I mean, I'm just a layman without that power. Think about that. I mean, there's so much going into
Mm.
it that I
Mm.
can tell you this to your face today, that there are
Mm.
elements that you and I cannot identify, but they
Mm.
basically dictate our daily lives.
No,
For
no, I
example,
completely understand. There are powerful people out there who exhilarate some a certain amount of powers and have activities which they
mhm,
perform. But at the end of the day, we're talking about something very precise. So, like for example, earlier
mhm,
when this stream began, I basically said, if tomorrow we discover that Shah Rukh Khan, for example, was
I'd
involved in
believe it,
something like this, I'm not saying he is, just as an example, then
but
what are
you'd
we going
believe
to
it.
say?
You'd
Ronaldo
believe it.
met
You'd
him.
believe it, because think
Hey,
about it.
David Beckham went and saw him. What are we going to say? So anyone who he ever met, you have to also realize a lot of these people, when you're in that position, you're going to invite a lot of people. Those people many of those people won't be involved in those activities which you're talking which they that crime is about. Some of them will be. But
Listen,
just knowing Epstein or visiting Epstein does not mean anyone and everyone who visited is basically involved in whatever he was conducting down there.
so basically you're saying,
Shaji, if I may, please
please,
uh,
please.
put in a little bit of a word. Uh, I think what you're trying to say is that the list that has been given by the courts in regards to all the people who have been in contact with Jeffrey Epstein, majority of those people might not have indulged in any kind of sexual activities that were happening in those islands. Very much acceptable. I
Mhm.
don't think that the problem is that people are saying that anybody who was mentioned in the court list was indeed a pedophile. That is not what we are assuming. What we're assuming is that there is such a structure
Sorry about that.
in the elite class. There is that they have made a bubble for them where they can do what the hell ever they please without any kind of repercussions. Now, we
Precisely.
for certain do not know which were the people who indulged in these evil acts. But what we do know is that such a structure has been built around them that they can manipulate the masses in such a way that they can get away with all sorts of things just because they hold the power of finances. And that is problematic. That is what is wrong. We do not know who are the people in all of those lists, but somebody in those lists
And
is
I
one of those
completely
people who
disagree
did
with that
involve with
notion.
that.
I think
Actually, building on that,
every time there is somebody who's exhilarating power or some crime is found in a certain way, people go into these conspiracies and begin to believe that everything and every activity which is being carried out is basically planned and orchestrated by a certain people to control the masses, which is completely incorrect. I
okay,
don't think that is
I
going to happen.
completely
If somebody,
disagree with that,
it's not
because
like so black and white as people are trying to state. Yes, there is an element of that. I completely agree, but it's not like there's somebody sitting on top of everything and deciding that we're going to control this, that, and the other, and everyone's just listening. Even people,
okay,
it's basically a top to bottom or a bottom to top approach. It's a spectrum of people at every level who are everyone is trying to accelerate power. Some succeed, some don't. Some get away with crimes, some don't. Those crimes sometimes people are accused of at every level and they haven't committed them. And at times, sometimes you have criminals of that nature. But my point, the reason I'm not here to defend Epstein. Epstein, at the end of the day, was a criminal, and there's enough evidence to show that what he basically conducted was for something very much incorrect. What he conducted, what he did, he was a very evil man. But everyone, because he was like in a very famous position, everyone who visited him or had an association with him cannot be accused of the same crime. The way the
okay,
media is portraying that
mhm.
this person and that person and that person and that person was involved in that. Yes, many of them might be, but you cannot say all of them were involved. And it's very unfair to make a statement like that because there might be a lot of they might be very famous, but some of them might some of the
Shaji,
people might be innocent. To accuse people
can I,
of child molestation and underage sexual racket is a big thing. It's
Okay.
not a small thing, and stating that just because your name appears in a list and you were visiting a certain event, anyone can be invited to any event. You might be
Shaji,
in the wrong the wrong
I got just one little question to ask you. So you're telling me that everybody who goes to a whorehouse is not
can I add
doing the
something here?
deed?
Hasib, give me a moment. Give me a moment.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Oh, no. 1 second. Let me
Yeah, take
First
your
of all,
time. It's all good.
Shaji, I think we can say that the case is generally not been made to cover up something, but how the list came out specifically when the Israel and Palestine thing is happening, that is kind of shady. They could have given that list anytime, but they specifically chose this time. That is kind of shady, because then the Jeffrey Epstein list was all over the news, right? Everybody was talking about the list, and
It's been
everybody kind of
years.
moved away from the
It's been years.
Israel Palestine issue. And yeah, and secondly, yes, exactly. And secondly, Hasib, on the point where you said, when visiting a whorehouse and all that,
Yeah.
actually, there are cases where people went to the island for business stuff, not to attend any
Hmm.
parties or anything. There are list of people who went there for parties, but there are people who were seen just generally having meetings and stuff. By this one guy who was an electrician in that place, and some of the girls,
Hmm.
they also said that that person just came here for a meeting and stuff. They didn't do anything, so it was not exactly specifically for that thing. And yes, the list that came out, uh, let me just put it out here that the list have names of all the people who were mentioned, either by the lawyers or Jeffrey Epstein during the case, right? Like Leonardo DiCaprio is mentioned in that list, but Leonardo DiCaprio was mentioned because Jeffrey Epstein claimed that he knew the guy. There was this other actress as well, I forgot her name. But these two people, that's because Jeffrey Epstein claimed that he knew those two people. So yes, no, the whole list is not exactly they're not all accused, or they don't have much to do with all these things. That's all I wanted to say.
No, I
Yeah,
just
I would
wanted to point
add
one
on
simple thing
that.
here.
There were a few religious events which occurred on those islands. Those islands, Epstein was not just conducting sexual intercourses, or it was not an orgy place over there. And even if somebody is involved in that kind of stuff, I can assure you, when somebody has an island, they conduct other activities over there as well.
No,
And I think that's
110%.
a huge misconception. It was not a designated Playboy mansion or something.
Okay, like I completely agree with your premise, but the only argument that I have opposing it is that, but it was still used for one or not. I mean, at the end of the day, we are just finding this stuff out and we can go for intentions. We can be like, oh, yeah, he was the nicest guy in the freaking world. He just banged underage girls. But the whole point is, at the end of the day, you're looking at the worst possible scenario that you're supposed to be prepared for. So, worst case scenario and best case scenario are like two complete opposite things here. You're going for the best case scenario that this guy was innocent as hell. At the end of the day, he was not associated in any way with the acts that were conducted, the lewd acts that actually were mentioned, the aforementioned acts were, he was not involved, basically. That's what you're saying. But my point is, see, at the end of the day, you got to take into account the fact that there is a very high chance that they were and they still managed to get their way out, because buying people off is not off the table. It's never off the table. And like you mentioned this earlier, that out of court settlements, they exist. Simple as that. So I mean, if you're in this case, you don't even need to make a situation where it goes to the court. You actually settle it right there and then. So it never would have gotten out. But the reason it had to get out was because they were framing this guy. Simple as that. I can't hear you.
Shaji, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Yeah.
So the point
Yeah.
over here is, when you basically make that statement that all of them, first of all, Epstein, there is no doubt he was involved in these activities, but these are not the only activities carried out by anyone. For example,
100%.
if you look at average pimp, somebody who solicits, that
Sex.
person is not pimping 24 hours a day only. That's not the only
Wouldn't need
activity
to.
that person is
Wouldn't need to.
conducting. So for example, if for example a priest visits the guy, or he goes to the church for a confession,
Mm-hmm.
and then later on somebody says the average Joe pimp so and so came and went and so fathered so and so and so, that would not mean anything. You understand? Or for example, if there was a delivery boy going and delivering food to somebody, these are very
Mm-hmm.
abstract statements, right?
No,
In that
100%.
same way, Epstein, you have to remember, was somebody who had this side of him hidden, and there was a 80%, 90% side of him which was completely public, and
Mm-hmm.
that was a showpiece, and a lot of people just went for that as well. There have to be there are always cover up events for these kind of people as well,
Decoys.
that
Decoys.
they're going to be seen by a lot of people. My point over here is very very simple, that anyone just associate, because they're associated to Epstein and that island for a certain event or a certain meeting, you
Mm-hmm.
cannot basically go out and say this person was involved in a sexual thing. That is insane.
Okay, I agree with that. And
Yeah,
at the
that
same
that
time, you cannot say that all the people that were actually at the parties were also people that actually partook in all of the activities. But what I am definitely saying, 110%, is that the associated elite class is 110% involved in actually conducting this, not only for one or two Epsteins. I can guarantee that there's going to be more. There definitely are more Irelands like that. There are definitely more people like that. And at the end of the day, it's it's something that's not exposed just yet because it doesn't need to be exposed just yet. Like what happened with Epstein. I mean, 110%. This was opportune timing, right? Why would they pick exactly that? Like exactly what Gray was saying here.
If I may interject in here, uh,
Sure.
I also want to focus on what Steve just said previously, that the kink of these people is not just the sexual activities. It's the fact that they want to overpower somebody using their influence. Now, the problem is not that the 2,000 names listed, all of them are evil people. They might be, they might not be. That's not the problem. The problem is that the court is not giving us the information. The system is not telling the people who are the damn bastards who are purely evil and indulging themselves in such activities. That is the problem. We know for a fact that sex trafficking did happen. He was sentenced for that. His girlfriend, what was her name? Ghislaine, Maham, what was the name of her girlfriend? Giselle something, Maxwell.
Ghislaine Maxwell.
Maxwell, Ghislaine. Yeah. Ghislaine Maxwell is behind the bars for 20 plus years because it is a known fact that sex trafficking did happen. Now, because that sex trafficking did happen, it is also a fact that there were people who were involved in those sex acts. We know that for a fact. The court is denying the general public that information. The problem is that we do not know who among those 2,000 people are the evil bastards. Why is the system protecting them? Knowing full well that this is one of the worst taboos in that particular society. And you know what? The funniest thing is that there are, if somebody is just, hell bent, broken in his mind, he has some weird ass shit in his up in his mind. He's
Demented.
got some problems. There are ways in that society. There are groups of people who, in the legal framework of America, do have, let's say, legislations in which people can get married to uh, girls or boys that are younger than the normal age of 18. They do exist in that region, though very rare, but they do exist. The problem is that they don't particularly just want to have sex with minors. The problem is that they want to overpower. It's a rape case. It's a sex trafficking ring. and they are still hiding the names. The justice system is.
Oh, that's
That's the
very
problem.
simple. Because
I don't
see,
think they're hiding that anymore. The lists are
no,
out.
I mean, we
Yes.
just have the list.
I
We
disagree
don't know
with
who
that.
did what.
I disagree with that. The reason that they have to actually suppress this information is because those people are the people that are actually lining their pockets as well. See, it might not be directly into their current bank accounts, but that's why we have offshore bank accounts. At the end of the day, I mean, me originally being from Pakistan, I know 110% that having accounts outside of that country have provided me with certain benefits. And realistically speaking, no matter who the hell you are, you will make use of it. If you can, you will. And that is the reality of it. And, you know, this is something that's been part of it. I mean, come on, who who doesn't buy that bribing a judge has been the most common crime that has been committed, the most unpunished crime? I mean, who here can deny that? Come on, go ahead. Please state it for me here.
As a Pakistani, we can't deny it. I mean, this is one of the most common
Precisely.
crimes in here. This is one of the most common
Globally,
crimes.
I think there was only one country that was able to actually suppress a crime like that. And realistically speaking, that was Malaysia. That was like back in 1992 or 89. They had like an entire like a session where they called in all these corrupted officials and they were like, hey, listen, please take a seat. We're going to have a conversation. We're calling you into this auditorium to actually discuss something very profitable. And the next thing you know, I mean, all of these people, they're actually there. They were eliminated. Like, that's a euphemism right there, but realistically saying, like, they were taken out. They were taken out. There
Did
was,
something
yeah.
similar happen in Thailand? Didn't something similar happen in Thailand as well? I mean, it
Mhm.
was brutal, but it's efficient. It's
Yeah,
brutal but efficient.
82% corruption levels gone down to 1%, 3% for 20 plus years. Come on, think about it. That's no price to pay. You can pay that price, like we could pay that price today and actually have a brighter future. But why don't we? Because there's money to be made. And there are certain people that actually take benefit out of it by controlling our perspective. See, this was something that I actually took out of Will Smith's statement. Uh, I mean, wrong person to bring into the conversation, but realistically, he said if you're following the media, you're misinformed. If you're not following it, you're uninformed. Either way, you're screwed. There's no way out.
Well, being people who indulge in media, we need to find a way out, man. This thing is not fine. We need to find a way
Um,
out.
yeah, and that is what's going to happen. And like, I think in the far future, there's going to be a global level civil war because that is exactly where this is heading. I mean, there is no other alternative out of it. I mean, think about it. This is the government suppressing the public, which it serves, apparently, and suppressing it to an extent where its finances are completely controlled. And now you're sitting at a point where you're like, I don't know why I'm paying so much when the government isn't doing what exactly I would want. So you have the entire population on one side and the government on the other. The governing class, if you will, is always
Yeah.
the same
Story of
level of
Pakistan.
dynasties. Not just
That is so
Pakistan.
much.
That
Not
is
just
not
Pakistan.
just Pakistan. No, there's so many things that they're like lords and freaking dukes here in Germany. Like I'm telling you this as a fact. You can't say a word about anything. Period. It's a global thing. This is something that's being controlled and then monitored. The control is being monitored to such an extent that right now, if I'm coming out and I'm saying stuff like this, I'm not putting down bona fides because realistically speaking, if I did, those were the
Yeah.
first things that were going to disappear. So if there was any
Yeah.
chance for anybody to follow through what I went through, it's best I keep quiet about it. And that's the
That
reality of
is.
it.
But how exactly can we, as individuals or groups of individuals, make such changes in our lives that, well, I mean, we are screwed. There's no question about that. Uh,
The next
but what
generation,
about our children? There
Yeah.
has to be a way that the next generation, my children, your children, or maybe they are screwed as well. But what about our grandchildren? We need to focus on such methodologies in which they are not screwed as well. What could possibly, I mean, for example, let's take this particular case that we are discussing, the case of Jeffrey Epstein.
Mhm.
How was he able to manipulate so many girls? And I don't know if there were boys involved, but knowing these
Oh
people,
yeah, 100%,
there might be.
100%, 100%.
Uh, how were they
Your
able
gender
to?
is not an issue.
Yeah, how were they able to manipulate them, and what are the reasons behind those factors in which that these people can manipulate the young minds in such a way that they will take them away from their houses? We need to focus on those
I have an
things and
answer for that.
eliminate those things from our society. I think that's the first step.
And that is something that you cannot eliminate anymore, because at the end of the day, it's indoctrinate. It's literally indoctrinating your kids. The next generation is already gone because they're using what? They're using mass information tools. Mass information tools are mass misinformation tools. If you're looking for facts, there are certain people that basically govern what you would consider to be a fact. Because, hey, we all grew up with Pluto being part of as the ninth planet, right? Well, that changed. Evolution was correct when we grew up.
I still miss
Suddenly
that
that
Pluto.
changed. I swear to God. I mean, there's so many pieces of evidence. I mean, right now, like one of the questions that I actually asked during this paleontology, like I am sort of enthusiastic about paleontology. The only thing being, I went to this seminar and the guy goes like, he finished his lecture and I go like, he goes like, any questions? And I asked him just one simple question. It was that, can you identify whether or not these creatures, this exact reptilian form you're talking about, did it have wings? Did it have feathers? And that was like a moment of silence, like left, right, and they're like, yeah, it doesn't indicate. I'm like, no, but there's no evidence. I mean, you cannot fossilize feather, right? How are you going to fossilize feather? What's feathers going to turn into? So, like, there was a moment, there was a spark that, even that guy went like, he got into the back foot and he was like, excuse me, we do not have a, like a solid answer to this, but the suggestion is here that they were reptilian and in the state where obviously you can see the process of evolution. Me personally, I am no longer in favor of accepting the fact that there was an evolutionary process here. Realistically speaking, I loved following through on it, but I would have loved to actually have evidence for it or to be able to fight that case at all. But to be very frank, I mean, a logical person would never accept this.
Well, turning back from feathered giants of the
Yeah,
past, I mean, I would myself love to have a feathery T-Rex that looks like a
that
chicken
would be
and
cool,
probably
right?
eat it too because I love eating chicken. But let's get back to the case at hand. Uh,
Epstein.
in the list of, let's discuss a few people who are well known that were shown in the list. Maham, would you like to point a few people out, and maybe we can discuss them individually? I mean, Prince Andrew was one of them. What do you say, Maham?
Excellent. So I have this list at my hand. Yeah, here you go.
Oh my, Bill Clinton. You know,
So
uh,
this is where it
they
starts
said
from.
they
Yeah.
said that Jeffrey Epstein mentioned in regards to Bill Clinton when he was talking about him that he likes them young. So, I mean, there's one comment.
Again, when he said that he likes them young, you cannot basically. Again, I'm in no way defending him. But he's not talking about
No, no, but
underage.
I get that. I mean,
So
like him young could
I
even mean
think
21.
that's pretty. To associate a habit which might be immoral in terms of what how it is, you cannot basically associate that with say for example, if somebody commits one crime or something which is a bit shady in terms of morality, you cannot basically go out and state that they must be doing everything.
100%. That's generalization of
Again,
personality.
Hillary Clinton was present at some of these events.
Okay.
So what are you
Well,
going to
we
suggest
have
with this as well?
Al Gore, all of these, Stephen Hawking, he was also mentioned, Michael Jackson. So this woman, her and Leonardo DiCaprio,
So
they were just
most
mentioned
of
as
this
in,
list of these people, if you
Jeffrey
look at
claiming that he knew them.
if you look at majority of this list, they meet each other all the time. These group of people, you see them at the same
Bruce
events.
Willis.
So what does that basically suggest?
No, I think it's not suggesting anything, but these were the people who were like visiting the island
Cameron
and all. But
Diaz,
like
wow,
one comment that I have is
named
on Stephen Hawking, because a lot of famous scientists and researchers were associated with Epstein, and the reason was because he was a huge one of the huge funders of a lot of big research units in the US. And I don't know whether he funded Stefan in any way or form or research, but he was into funding interesting ideas and research units, I would say. And a lot of physicists and scientists from the US, they frequently visited the island. But like no relations can be drawn, or they can't be blamed for any crimes that were committed, because there were also people working on the island. Because there is a documentary on Netflix, and there was this person who basically was sort of a electrician or something, and someone asked him like, why are you working on this island, you know what happens here? And then he's like, it reminded me of my two daughters, and that's the day when I left the job at the island. So being on the island or being present on the island doesn't imply that you have committed any crime. But yes, it was infamous for certain criminal activities. Yes.
Well, again, I would agree with you in regards to what you've just said. I completely agree with that notion, but isn't that everywhere around us? Like I've worked in corporate, I'm sure I've worked in academia, I've been in the finance industry. We grew up in a pretty much corporate kind of an environment where everything was commercialized as well. So isn't that what's basically everywhere around you anyways? Like for example, even if you look at countries like Pakistan and India, you see that in all walks of life. Whether it's like I'm not saying it's all right, but I'm just saying this is not something which is new. Or everyone knows what goes on. Everyone knows the relationship and the shady stuff which occurs between secretaries and bosses. These things are not made up. Everyone knows what happens when, for example, there are business meetings in the finance industry and they're held in strip clubs, very, very openly funded by these corporate organizations, these financial institutes, which happen to be huge. Then everyone knows about that relationship between a supervisor and a student in an elite university. These are not made up stories. We've all come across these things. So basically, what my basic point is to basically state that this is something new, and everyone associated with that thing, the way it's being popularized in the media and the way everyone's riding on that bandwagon, it makes absolutely no sense, because at the end of the day, the release of these people in this list, when this comes out, the dude is dead, the activity is over. How are they going to prove anything? Where are those witnesses going to come from? Even if they were culprits, either those women and those children will have to come up and basically make those statements. And if they fail to do that, what are you going to get out of that? What's going to
First
be
of
the
all,
outcome of this?
as far as events like this or the instances like this are concerned, I sincerely believe that there is no court scenario where you could actually convict any of them, because realistically speaking, the reason why it's actually turned out to be in on that island is exactly that. I mean, they wanted to get away from the law, and that's exactly what they did. And when they're doing something outside of the law, it's not unlawful. Get it? Because the law, the jurisdiction ends where these guys actually, doing whatever they're doing. And at the end of the day, it is their call. And I mean, I'm not defending them. I'm not saying that what they're doing is morally correct. I'm not standing with anything that was done over there. But realistically speaking, they're legally in the right. Legally, you cannot do jack shit. Realistically speaking, I mean, you don't have anything. Even if you did have everything, even if you had statements and everything was ready. Who are you going to put in jail? What are you going to do? This is all a distraction. This is the circus before Rome falls. Simple as that. Enjoy it. That's exactly what it is, because they're trying to distract you from what the real issues would be. And you can sit here, we can sit all night long, and we can argue about how Epstein was wrong and what Epstein did was wrong, and how we can list out all the people and shame them. But realistically speaking, I mean, they didn't do anything illegal. They did something wrong, but that's not to say that it's illegal. And that's where the actual dilemma lies.
There's,
Get it?
there's another thing as well, and we have to keep that in mind. Anyone who went on those islands knew what they were going out of their legal jurisdiction to begin with, and whatever occurs over there is going to be something which they're responsible for. So anyone who basically went there again is just as responsible for their own safety as the people who are invited, and the ones who are inviting, and the ones who are working. Again, that's something which we have to look at.
That's right. I agree with that. As a matter of fact, you can say what you want. At the end of the day, like you said earlier, I can recall that at the end of the day, you need people to run an island. When you're running an island, one of the first things that you're going to want to do is actually set up a water source. You're going to want a maintenance person right there. First of all, that's literally the first thing, the essentials. Okay. So water, you need somebody to actually monitor how you're going to be consuming your water, where the storage is, how it's going to be built. You need people for that. 110%, it's a necessity, and you're going to go and do that. But you're going to do it at a higher price. And that is exactly what it is. At the end of the day, these people were paid insanely well. Like, you seen that whatever he was, that plumber or steward or whatever, at the end of the day, that guy, the reason he came out was probably because his paycheck got cut. Realistically speaking, I mean, if you're paid the way they're paid, we wouldn't be having this conversation. You would be trying to shut me up here so that, it doesn't ever get to a point where we have a proper conversation about this topic. And I mean, that's exactly what it
would
is.
Be a proper conversation about? There isn't one, is there?
Well, a proper conversation would be, what exactly are you getting paid to actually keep this information from the public and actually conduct your tasks? I mean, I would say if you and we were working
it's
there,
not
that would be
necessarily
my
just
first
a
conversation
payment.
there.
It can be other promises as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, favors are favors. No matter where you go, you get your favors, right? I mean, if you're doing somebody a favor, at the end of the day, you're going to take
So
something
there
back.
isn't really much.
There isn't really much.
Shaji
Did I
stuck
get cut off?
again.
But what I'm basically suggesting is, am I breaking?
Oh no, I thought you were stuck. Carry on.
It's just a bit of a lag, but it's okay.
Yeah, I think.
What happened?
Yeah, we couldn't hear you, Shah.
He was saying something.
No, I was
Yeah,
done
while
a while
Shaji is
back.
busy, Shaji, is your lag over? I think he's still in lag. Anyways, while Shaji is in lag, I would like to show the stage a little bit of something. This is something that did happen in May 2023. Banks are paying because of their quote unquote association with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, banks pay people jack shit. They don't pay people, they take money from people. Now, I think that these payouts of 75 million from Duchess, well, some German bank, I don't know how to pronounce it, and JP
Deutsche Bank.
Morgan. Yeah,
Deutsche
that one.
Bank. Yeah.
And then on June, JP Morgan agreed to pay 290 million. That's a lot of zeros into some settlement funds for victims. So the fact that a lot of people did not pursue these heinous acts, I believe that the established elites are buying out their silences because, well, why wouldn't they? They wanted a scapegoat and they've got money to spare. To that social circle, uh, we are just like goats and animals, and they just had to pay a little bit. And that, people, is what the problematic thing is. That they are treating us like uh,
Cattle?
livestock. Yeah, livestock.
Yeah,
Treating us like
exactly.
cattle.
We are cattle. What do you think this is? What kind of circus are we in? I mean, obviously we are cattle. How are we not providing this? I mean, at the end of the day, all the
No,
taxes
but
and
my,
where
my
are they going?
question is, if somebody does not want to pursue something and
Mhm.
they're going to be accepting some kind of out of court settlement,
Mhm.
how can you refer to a criminal as a criminal?
Exactly my point. I mean, I told you this earlier that these criminals are not criminals because they are out of that legality. They walk their way out of it.
No,
Money
They
buys
pay
their
their
way
way
out.
out of
It's
it.
simple
I
as
think
that.
the apparent victims who we're referring to as victims are the ones who are intentionally letting that occur. You see a lot of, for example, there used to be this club called Movida in the heart of London. And you would have these women dress up because majority of footballers, singers, businessmen, financial institute
Oh
people
yeah, this was the one with
would
Zizou and
basically come over
Beckham.
there and they would enter, and those women, what their main intention was to get in bed with one of those people, whoever they might be, at times even get impregnated or whatnot, or accuse them of rape or whatever, and then later on claim on that. And a lot of women did make a lot of money out of that. A lot of men did that as well, by the way, to a lesser extent, but a lot of men did that. Movida was famous for that. I can name of another club called Tramp. There's one in Berlin, which is very, very famous by the name of Cartoon. Then there are
Cartoon? Oh, I think
yeah.
you mean Insomnia. in Zambia.
Zambia is one, is a different kettle of fish. There's another one called cartoon. With
I gotta
Zambia,
check that out.
I don't think we should go into the nitty and gritty of Zambia,
Yeah,
but
I think we
I
can
get
leave
your
it there.
point. But at the end of the
Okay,
day,
guys, it's
there
time to
are
wrap up.
certain,
Okay.
there are
Mute.
certain
Sorry.
cases, and it works both ways. My point being that when somebody's agreed to an out of court settlement, you can't really blame the person who's they're both equivalent in terms of blame. Who are you going to prosecute? Unless the person happens to be a
Shaji,
child.
you
Even
know
in
what,
Michael
Shaji?
Jackson.
We agree.
Hmm?
Shaji, I agree with you that if they settled it outside of court, there is no case. But that doesn't take the crime from the criminal, right? I mean, if they're settling out of court, something happened. So you know that the guy is, and maybe the law is not doing its job, or whatever they do, settling out of court. But you know that the guy did what they're claiming that he did. You can't take that away from him. So
No,
See,
but there have been cases where the people who settled out of court, they settled out of court because they did not want that kind of PR or that kind of headache to continue as well. There have been huge cases like that as well.
many
Well, of
judges have been
course,
paid
I
off
mean,
through.
there is rape involved. There are social It's a rape case. There are social repercussions. Of course, people would not want to
It's
involve
no
their
longer
name.
it's actually no longer a rape when the woman or the man who has been raped goes out and basically makes that suggestion that no, I don't want to pursue this, and it's fine, I'm getting compensated for
Nay,
that.
Shazab, I
No,
disagree
it
with
is
that.
still
See,
a rape.
at the
It's very
time,
much a
at
rape.
the time,
Legally, it's no
it is a
longer
rape.
rape, is it?
Legally,
not
this doesn't
legally, but
exist
it is
legally.
still a rape.
No, wait a
It is
second.
a rape.
Even legally, it is still a rape. It's a rape
But
that is being
my point
compensated
over
for.
here is if it's a genuine rape, I would agree
Mhm,
with you. But most nine out, that's why I gave an example about
mhm.
Movida as well. Most of these out of court settlements occur because also the people involved were kind of had an idea of what was going to occur, and they were after money as well. And
No,
nobody
I
can
mean,
deny
it
that.
is
You've seen
so.
episodes.
I mean, this, I have a very large disagreement with you on this one, sir,
I can
because
give you
there's a
examples.
reason why there's this concept of minors,
No,
because
Shaji is
we don't
not
know
exactly
any
wrong.
better.
No.
I can give you examples.
Shaji is not exactly wrong. A lot of people will do that too. But in Jeffrey Epstein case, we have people who settled out of court, but then we have women who took the case to court. So we cannot say that he was innocent in that one and not innocent. And the way that settlement was handled, it was shady. It was very shady. I mean, I was watching this documentary on Netflix. It was very shady the way it was handled. I mean, the police and the main person who was involved in that case, he was not invited to that whole plea bargain, and it
Affair.
was a very hush hush situation. Everybody found out through through a third person. The police found out through a third person. So it's not exactly that simple. But then again, we have women like Virginia, and there were a few others who actually took the case to court, but they didn't get the justice they wanted because, well, the guy killed himself, but then there are certain claims that he was killed because they were showing his skull, and he said that hanging yourself wouldn't break this bone, it would just break this bone, not this one, along with that. So there are
Okay,
some
two.
uh,
Yeah,
issues with that thing as well.
yeah. Two
And
two points.
secondly,
Mhm.
I just
Hey,
so Shaji, Ghislaine Maxwell, the partner of Jeffrey Epstein, she's serving 20 years in jail. So It's not like there was nothing to it. I mean, there was
Yes.
a lot to it, but he kind of,
No,
I
no,
think
I
he got
haven't
away with
said
it.
there was nothing to it at all.
Uh,
I
mm,
obviously said he was a criminal and there were certain things, but certain things were out of jurisdiction. Secondly, he's dead, and my point is not everyone who went there was associated in the same thing just because their name is there.
yeah,
That
that
was
I
the
agree with.
simple point. And my point was also that there were a lot of people who went to those islands knowing very well what they were getting into and how they're going to get out of settlement, out of court settlements and money out of it as well. There's part and parcel of all those things. So there are a lot of gray areas in that.
Yeah,
Nature,
the
it's
Okay.
pretty black and white. It's wrong, but it's legal. So it's pretty clear.
mm,
No, no, I mean gray in the area of intentions of all the people involved, from Epstein to everyone else who was involved, to the ones who were kind of involved in the activities, to the ones who were not involved in the activities, to the ones to which extent they were involved in the activities, how many of them were involved with the minors, how many minors'
Okay.
parents were there, how many people were completely uh, not involved at all. You will never be able to come up with the
Okay.
exact
Food for thought.
of
Food
those
for thought.
people.
Okay. It might not be the crime, the specific crime that you're looking for, but I assure you, if it's being conducted on a shady ass island in the middle of nowhere where no laws abide, 110% it is a shady ass affair. And no matter what you do, I mean, it, okay, fine. It might not be legally wrong or illegal or considered to be frowned upon even at that stage. You wouldn't even know what's going on. See, at the end of the day, all those business meetings could have also been, involved in something a little bit darker than what we would like to learn of, to be frank.
Let's just call them
And I
in their
think the Jeffrey
phrases
Epstein.
refreshments.
Uh, I just want to add one thing I forgot entirely. When after they got the permission to search his house, they found a lot of material in Jeffrey Epstein's house as well. There was no way he was getting away with this thing, underage stuff in his house.
yeah,
There's no way he was
and
getting away with
also
that.
in
Anyway,
the previous
very
case in 2008, he pleaded guilty of certain sex offenses. One was like prostituting a minor or something. So he pleaded guilty in 2008 or 9. The shady deal that Medusa was referring to.
So you always
So
liked it young.
everyone knew what they were getting into.
Just saying.
He was a convicted sex offender. He served a year, 13 months in jail in Florida. So yeah, everyone knew what they were getting into.
Sabarami.
Yeah, the thing is, you might again. I think it's legality which counts at the end of the day, and again, the list. Why I keep saying that anyone associated, you would have different. So my example would be, say for example, there was a man who goes to the island to basically get extract money out of it knowingly, or a woman who goes to the island well knowing very well what's going to occur over there. In those cases you cannot basically say that the people who paid for it were the only culprits. At times, there are going to be people at all levels. You would, if you're morally holding accountable only those people, then what about the workers who know very well knew what they were getting involved in? They're working there. They might not be involved in the sexual activities.
110%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
In the same
obviously.
way, there might be women and there might be upcoming models who would be like, okay, we'll do this. It's fine. We'll get something out of it as well, and then jump on the bandwagon. If it didn't work on that way, those kind of women must be there as well, a proportion of them, not all of them. There must be vulnerable people as well, like we're saying, a lot of vulnerable people might be there as well, not there out of will and out of another situation. And there might be some people who just went there because they knew Epstein and saw what's happening and got there, all kinds of people. And that's why I refer to it as a gray area. And not all of them apart. Epstein was definitely a culprit, but everyone else associated, you would have to do a lot of investigation to basically go out and state who was involved with what, and who you're going to hold accountable for what kind of involvement.
But Shaggy,
And
that's not possible at all. I mean, realistically speaking, I mean, the trend of today is, collective punishment. Just grab them all, throw them in jail. We'll see. Let's sort it out. Like let fate sort it out. Whoever survives, survives. End of story. That's how you solve this problem.
I guess so. I guess we're done with this. So we're going towards the wrap up. Thank you for coming, everyone. You guys
Thank
want
you
to
for having
give your
us.
final statements? You want to give your final statements about this thing? Do we not have any?
I think I think everybody's done with their thesis statements.
Yeah, I guess. So, thank you for listening, everyone, and thank you for joining, especially you, Hasib. Thank you for coming. It was very interesting talking to you. And subscribe
For sure.
to the channel, everyone, and press the ring button so that you can get updates regularly of our discussions. We have discussion on different
Sessions.
topics, media, sessions, media, and politics, current affair, maybe sometime history as well. Sometime we talk about these stuff as well. So don't forget to join next time. Have a nice day, and see you next time. Bye bye.